Welcome to this tutorial where I'm going to show you how we're going to create this ceremony arch that's full of greenery and a few cream blossoms with simply 5 colours and 5 brushes. So I've created all of the resources you need to work alongside this tutorial, and in the description below there's a link to a PDF which you can download, and also if you want to try 10 more free brushes of mine, there's a link in the description below. Just click it and I will send you 10 free brushes straight to your inbox. So when you open up that PDF that's linked below, this is what you're going to get. There's a little description here on how you can upload your resources, but I'll show you quickly how to do that now as well. So what you're going to want to do is select this download resources button. And it's going to open up a Dropbox file. Here you need to select these 3 files and download them and save them to either your computer, your iPad, or a cloud location. So I've saved mine to a OneDrive folder, and this is what you're going to see. You've got your 3 files here. There's a student file. One of these is a color palette and the other is the brushes. When you find these files, you can see there's 3 little dots next to them. So what you do is select that and open in another app. Here, if you're lucky like me, your Procreate icon will be at the top here. If you don't see it, you can scroll across and select more, and then you can just scroll here until you find the Procreate icon here. And then these 3 files, your Procreate file, the brushes and the color palette, will all be uploaded straight into your Procreate app. So then you open up your Procreate app, and in your gallery will be that Procreate file. And within the file, there's already some layers included for you. This layer labeled reference 1 is what we're working towards. This will be the final output we create. Reference 2 is an image we're going to use for inspiration. And this ceremony arch floral design was created by Stems of Texas, so we're using an inspiration image taken from their Instagram, and I've tagged them below if you want to check them out. And the third layer is just a simple arch outline which will be covered by greenery in our final output, but it's just to guide you in size and location. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on reference 2 layer, just so we can see it in the top left corner here. And I've got my arch layer on. I'm going to select that arch layer and tap plus here to add a new layer above that arch layer. Now let's go and find our first brush. So tap on this paintbrush here to open up your brush library. And in this list will be your uploaded brush set labeled 2022-01. It will either be at the very top or the very bottom of your list here. And in it you can see there's 5 brushes. The first 2 brushes we're going to use are from my new dynamic greenery brushes. This brush set has 52 brushes, and they're all set up so that as you move your stylus across the screen, they're laying down the different leaves in different aspects and sizes to give that kind of really realistic feel. And these are the types of brushes you get in that brush set. And we're going to be using this one here and this one here. So going into our brush library, let's select G26. And now to select our first colour, let's go into our colour palette here. And again, your uploaded colour palette will either be at the very top or the very bottom of your colour palette library here. And again, it's labelled 2022-01. And in it you can see we have 5 colours. So let's go and select the very left colour of that top row. We're working on a new layer. We've got G26 brush selected. And the first thing I'm going to do, increasing that size slightly, is start laying down the base of this kind of greenery structure. So setting the base for the more dense areas of it, and also starting to establish how big we're going to have it. So all you're going to do, working from this arch, a template that's laid out here, you're just going to start working around it. Just adding quick brush strokes in different aspects, different locations, to keep it looking organic and realistic. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point. We can always come back and change the size and density of some of these areas. So for now, I'm going to leave it like this. And I'm going to select this second colour along, which is our darkest green. I'm going to add a new layer above that layer, and I'm going to go into the very darkest areas in the very central kind of area of this arch and just add a few more darker areas just to give this a little bit more density, a little bit more depth, but not covering up too much of the colour we've just laid down. This starts to give it that kind of full, dense look. And if you've gone wrong in some areas, I'm not sure I like these two bits here, so what I'm going to do is go into my eraser brush, select the same brush we've just been using, G26, and you can just come in and work out those little areas there. And then we're going to do this 2 more times with different colours on our next brush. So let's go and add a new layer above. Let's go into our brushes and select the next one down. And then let's go into our colour palette, and I'm going to select the third one along, starting to add some highlights. And again, it's just the same technique. You're just coming in and adding different colours, different layers to create this kind of organic, dense ceremony arch look here. And in this is the point when you can start kind of throwing some of these leaves beyond our base to start to create that kind of organic look. Anytime you need some inspiration, just glance back up here at the reference image. You can see where some of these leaves are kind of sticking out, and the different layers of colours and leaf shape. And that's the look we're trying to create here. Okay, I'm happy with that. So we're going to go do this one more time, adding a new layer above. We're sticking with our G30 brush, and now I'm going to select the lightest green we have here, the 4th one along. And for the last time, I'm going to go do this again, adding highlights. Some real bright highlights. This time we're going to add less leaves, but we're just, again, just reinforcing the fact that this is a very organic piece. These leaves are kind of draping densely from the center of this archway. Anytime you make a mistake, if I go out here and I think, oh, that's too much, 2-finger tap on the screen just erases that. Okay, I'm happy with that. And now we're going to add in those flowers. So again, adding a new layer above. Let's go and select our flower brush. And this brush is from my floral brush set. And in it, you can see we're going to use this brush number 1, but in it you can see we've got roses, ranunculus, all different flowers. And these are just simply brush stamps. I've hand drawn the outlines for you and added the colour. Then all you need to do is just stamp that on the screen in Procreate and you've got a flower in your design. So again, working on that new layer, I've got my hydrangea selected. Now let's go and select this cream ivory colour here. And you might need to play around with the size here because this brush is pressure sensitive. So if you have a pressure sensitive stylus, depending on how hard you press, so I'm pressing lightly now and getting harder, it will change the size of those flowers. So you might find every now and again that you press too hard and a flower comes out too large. That's when 2-finger tap on the screen just erases that flower. So working very loosely, I'm going to have a few different kind of areas of denser flowers and then some areas kind of just randomly placed. So just start thinking about where you'd like the more dense flower areas. And then the rest of them are just kind of loosely dotted around. See, I went too large there, so 2-finger tap on the screen. Do that multiple times until you get back to where you are happy with it. Okay, I'm happy with this. I'm going to make these flowers stand out a little bit more, so I'm going to go into that layer. I'm going to swipe left and duplicate it. And I'm just going to reduce the opacity of that upper layer just slightly so it's not too bold. I'm going to tap on it and merge it down so we've just got that single layer of flowers. And you can see by turning it on and off which one it is. And now I just want to erase some of the edges of those flowers so they don't look like they're all kind of sat on the outside of the greenery. I want them to look like they're kind of tucked in and the greenery is kind of growing around them. So I'm going to go into my eraser brush here. In our 2022-01 brush set, let's select G26, so the brush we were using to create all our greenery to start with. And what I'm going to do is just come into the edges of some of these flowers. Just take some of the shape out of them so they don't all look perfectly round, and change the kind of angle you're doing this at. It just kind of gives the impression that these are kind of tucked into this greenery piece. Okay, I'm going to leave that like that. And at this point, if you want to go and change any of the colours in our different layers, you can. So I think our lightest greenery might be a little too bright. So I'm going to tap on my magic wand icon and hue, saturation and brightness. And in here, you can take out some of the saturation and just increase the brightness slightly. So it's not such a bold green. It's more of a kind of lighter, softer green. And then once you're completely happy with that, you can select those layers by swiping right on them, just the ones we created, so the 4 greenery layers and the flower layer. And I'm going to group those together. I'm going to turn off my reference image. And then how I usually work is I keep this as a template just in case you want to go back and change any of those layers. I'm going to swipe left and duplicate the whole group, turning off that original group and flattening everything within that top group. So now what was 5 layers is now 1 layer, but obviously if we wanted to go back and change any of this, it would be very difficult. Now I want to add some shadows just at the base of this arch. So I'm going to swipe left on our flattened group. I'm going to select that bottom layer, select my arrow to move it, and I'm going to move it just down and left slightly. I'm going to tap the magic wand again and hue, saturation and brightness. I'm going to take the brightness down to none. I'm going to tap that magic wand again, select Gaussian blur, just increase that slightly. And then within that layer, reduce the opacity down. And there we have our shadow. And the very last thing I'm going to show you very quickly is how to add a nice watercolor effect to your design. So selecting our ceremony arch, let's add a layer above that. And then going into your color palette, we're going to add a pure white color. So just double tap up on the top left here. I'm going to drag that into the whole screen so it goes completely white. I'm going to take my eraser icon here. I'm going to select our watercolor brush. Take a size of around 20% and an opacity of around 30%. Let's just erase some of that white we just dropped in here. And again, this is a pressure sensitive brush, so the harder you press, the more you erase. So keep doing this until we end up with the kind of central section of this illustration plain, and you can leave as much of those edges kind of watercolor as you like. And there we go, there's how to create a very simple ceremony arch using just 5 brushes and 5 colours. In fact, I think we used 4 brushes, but 5 and 5 sounds nicer anyway. So again, if you want to get 10 more free brushes, just click the link in the description below and I'll email you my favourite 10 brushes and you can keep practicing the skills you've learnt today.